Well, looks like a small cast tonight, but that's cool. We can roll with that. I actually have quite a bit of stuff. Let me muting YouTube because apparently I'm getting some feedback there. Um, welcome everybody. For those who don't know, I'm Cujo or Josh. We got Dan up top here. He's 507. We got Dave over here. Have you ever picked a call sign, Dave?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Gru-
We got
Something
Alex
like
up here.
grumpy old guy FPV or
Grumpy
something.
old- There you go. I'll go ahead and get started. We got a little bit. I got a little bit of stuff to cover, and let me see if I can make this share my screen to what I want it to. There we go. All right. So, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Can we see my screen?
Not yet.
Yes.
You can see the
Okay.
screen?
Yes, just click in the top right where it says
shoot.
watch stream.
That's right.
Just want to
I
make
have to
sure
go
we're
get
ready
that.
to go there.
What am I looking for, Alex?
Top right of the screen should say watch stream, and then you click it.
There we
Okay.
go.
Perfect. All right. So beta FPV. I wanted to start off with a little bit of FPV straight up news. So beta FPV launches a new sub 250 Cinewhoop. It's called the Pavo 30. And it's the company's first 3-inch pusher style whoop. Let's see. So with little fanfare, the new drone was released overnight. Here's what it looks like. There we go. And Beta FPV has some copy on its website describing its feature. The Pavo 30 quadcopter, a new concept of 3-inch pusher drone developed by Beta FPV, is going further in performance, durability, and power with brand new power system. It's powerful enough to carry a SMO 4K camera or a customized naked camera for all FPV freestyle tricks, and can also carry a GoPro for some simple action flying. This 3-inch whoop drone can meet more high-quality shooting needs. Pilots can enjoy an incredibly stable and clear HD footage video while in the FPV flight. There's a video. Let me link this real quick. This is just it's I think the top story on there. Sorry, it's just the main page. But so the motors, instead of by pusher, we're referring to the motors being mounted upside down. It's literally pushing air down and away rather than the more traditional configuration. It has an analog VTX, comes with a toothpick, all-in-one 35 amp flight controller, 1505 3400 kV motors, and HQ75 5-blade props. They do have an HD digital VTX that I believe it's the Cadex Vista, and it's a pretty incredible little guy. Love to get my hands on one. It's got a looks like I don't know if it's carbon fiber or what frame, and then it's got the shroud around it. So the standard analog version that doesn't come with the 4K camera sells for 2000 or 209. 2000. That'd be expensive. 209.99. And if you want the Cadex Vista, it's 309.99. And it's more powerful than the popular Beta 95X V3. So cool little guy. I'd love to see some. Let's see what the video is real quick. Not too shabby.
Yeah, that looks like a GoPro video.
So it looks like it's got some isolation for the camera, so that's pretty cool. Neat little dude. I won't play the whole video and take up the whole stream, but yeah, I'd love to see some people working with that. Next, DJI releases the Air 2S. It's packed with an impressive camera and incredible range. So this is an update to the Air 2. This one runs $999 for the basic package, and I think it's $12.99 for the Fly More kit. And they have upgraded it in 3 different areas. So it has they upgraded the image sensor from a 1/2 inch to a 1 inch. It has additional object sensing technology, which makes it safer to fly the drone around trees, wires, and obstacles. And the range, they've basically doubled the range of it while streaming HD. It's nearly twice as far as the original Air 2 and a real world range of approximately a mile. The downside is it's not compatible with the DJI motion controller nor the DJI FPV system. And the expectation is that they're not going to make it compatible with it.
So I thought there were rumors that it would work with the DJI V2 goggles, but is that not the case?
There was another press release that I did not include today, but I did read it, and it says it's not going to be compatible. So
that's interesting.
feel free to,
if they're both using OcuSync 3, but I have not heard that they work together. But
yeah, so the 1 inch 20 megapixel image sensor is capable of running 5.4K video at 30 frames per second, 4K at 60, and 150 megabits per second. And then there's different zoom levels depending on the resolution that you choose. Yeah, $12.99 for the Fly More package, which includes 2 extra batteries, ND filters, a charging hub, and a shoulder bag. Fancy. All right. We'll move on to some more interesting stuff. This is out of Florida. And this is some regulatory.
Out of Florida. That's a famous way to start a sentence, right? Or is it usually Florida man?
Right. So this particular bill, it is HB 1049, and I did post a link to it there. It's 3 pages long. It's not that long. It's not a hard read, but basically it is saying by January 1st, 2022, the department, in consultation with the state chief information officer, shall publish on the department's website a list of approved manufacturers from which a governmental agency is authorized to purchase, otherwise acquire, or use a drone as provided under the section. An approved manufacturer must provide appropriate safeguards to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data collected, transmitted, and stored by a drone. The department may consult federal agencies and any relevant federal guidance in developing the list of approved manufacturers required under this paragraph. So essentially what this does is the government of Florida will be selecting drones that they deem appropriate for any of their government agency, which is any state, local, state, county, local, or municipal government. Which means that they can effectively curtail a business from being able to do business with the government, and it can drastically impact some smaller companies from being able to basically work with the Florida government in terms of them being able to use their drones. So basically the term here is picking winners and losers via state legislature, which is never a good thing. And we've talked about this similar kind of situation before with the federal government, and it's kind of curtailing of DJI's drones due to the company's country of origin.
Yeah, I'd say in my opinion, the better thing to do, instead of saying here's a list of drones you can buy, is a drone you buy must meet XYZ standards for safety, for security, for whatever, not just flat out say here's the 3 drones you're allowed to buy.
Yeah, and I would completely agree to that. I mean, it would give essentially, and we've talked about this a lot, a means of compliance for companies to follow to be able to do business with, the government, whether it be it federal or state. So, I feel like this is a pretty raw deal, and I don't, Dave, you probably know a little bit more. This is still under, it's not law yet, correct?
That's correct. It's still draft, and we're working with the Drone Service Provider Alliance, Kenji Sugara, Vic Moss, and so we hope to have some views and a language. And certainly, if you live in Florida, this is something to pay attention to. And if we can, we'll provide some sample copy. And I would ask that you contact your Florida state legislature. And this is we don't. This is their house in Florida at a state level. And yeah, and just as Josh said, we don't look at this in a positive view. This is restrictive, and we're concerned that Florida, much like many other states, are starting to put drone legislation in place, and that's it's not a positive.
Yeah, and I think the hard part is while this would be for governmental use, so I mean you'd be looking at possible civil government organizations, maybe like infrastructure inspection, which is a topic I'll touch on a little bit later this evening, but or police or law enforcement, I should say, or I mean even any kind of state insurance.
Fire, search and rescue. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So it says that by July 1st, 2022, a government agency that uses any drone not produced by an approved manufacturer shall submit to the department a comprehensive plan for discontinuing the use of such drone. The department shall adopt rules identifying the requirements of the comprehensive plan required under this paragraph. So it's just like, wow.
Can the plan be I will continue to fly it until it crashes and doesn't fly anymore?
Right. I mean, that's pretty comprehensive. But yeah, it's just I'm not keen on legislation picking winners and losers on companies. I would rather see, like Dan was saying, a means of compliance if you're that concerned about all those.
If they're worried about
areas.
privacy, then say, okay, it must meet these levels of privacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not just, it must be manufactured by company ABC.
Right. And I would completely agree with that. So
in as much as Rotor Riot, Get FPV, and Race Day Quads are all located in Florida and their headquarters, I've reached out to all three today. And so to make their management aware, and we'll provide them with whatever information that we can.
Yeah, I wonder how often some government body in Florida would use like a custom-built drone for anything.
Well, I mean, at some point, I mean, any type of drone that is manufactured would be custom built at some point. And I think that it really lessens the ability for companies to compete with other the chosen ones for that government money and that government contract. And that's just, I mean,
yeah,
that's just a bad deal all around.
Would this cover state universities or anything that's bought with a grant from the state or anything like that?
Let's see.
I tried to figure that in reading. I could not figure that out from my reading.
It's very vague.
I was worried about that.
Yeah, clearly if that is the case, then that would really limit and hamper some drone uses in some research and development at universities and whatnot.
High schools, technical schools, universities, absolutely.
STEM schools, all those things.
Yep.
Absolutely. So
all right, well, we're a Florida high school and we have a FPV racing team, and you can only use DJI FPV racing drone or something like
Skydio.
Yeah, all Skydio.
Right. All right. So bad deal all around. And even further, obviously, more drone regulation is just beyond just being ridiculous and whatnot. It's just we're getting to the point where it's becoming a patchwork, and this is what we, really strive to avoid. It's easy rules. It's not easy to follow 500 sets of rules. And when a state says something, and then a county says something, and then a city says something, and trying to keep up with all those things and operate a drone business of any kind, whether it's, racing or STEM or, even just digital photography or aerial photography, it's just a bad deal all around because, a lot of people travel to do these jobs, and keeping up on all these regulations is it's pretty rough. So I the easier it is, the better it's going to be for everybody. And it's something I'll touch on again a little bit later.
Yeah, that that kind of reminds me of the if anybody travels for work, um, you might end up at the end of the year having to file taxes in like 20 different states, and every state slightly different. 2 days if you've been there, you have to file it. Sometimes a week. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely. So it's just more for a company to track, and it's pretty crazy altogether. All right, so part 89 remote ID for drones is effective April 21st. Hey, that's today, and the clock starts ticking. So there is a lot in the bottom of this article that we've covered the differences between standard remote ID with a broadcast module, FRIA zones, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to really touch on that so much as I am kind of where we are. So the FAA is implementing a new rule, Part 89, which will create a regulatory environment wherein drone operations can be fully integrated into U.S. airspace and enable greater commercial operational capabilities of drones while promoting safety and security. Like Part 89, like Part 107, is sure to further increase the market for drones, which is now expected to grow to $63.6 billion by 2025. Where's my share? $63.5 billion. It's predicted that drone growth will mainly occur across 5 main industry segments: agriculture, construction and mining, insurance, telecommunications, and law enforcement. But niche operations will benefit as well. Part 89 is effective as of April 21st, 2021. The original date was March 16th, but due to administrative issues, the FAA moved the date to today. So while Part 89 will create the regulatory certainty that will grow and solidify the commercial drone market, drone operators and especially manufacturers will be subject to a tremendous number of new regulatory requirements for compliance with remote identification. Part 89 requires virtually all types of commercial drones to broadcast remote ID messages via unlicensed radio frequencies that will be compatible with personal wireless devices. Consequently, drones are subject to various types of new operational performance and message element requirements. These new requirements require drone manufacturers to comply with many new regulations, which entail a plethora of filings with the FAA and other forms of rule observances to ensure compliance with Part 89's design and production rules. Moreover, drone manufacturers will be subject to FCC radio frequency equipment rules. So a lot to kind of unpack there. But Dave, you're shaking your head over there.
I am, because all of the work that we're doing with the ASTM, that's F3411 working group, and so this is the remote ID working group, and I've joined the working group, and I'm playing a infinitesimally small role in the amazing work that has already been done. As I've described before, we're creating an update to the standard that already exists from ASTM on remote ID that will be approved by the FAA, and that will constitute a means of compliance. That will allow manufacturers to use the ASTM standard like a recipe, build to those specs, and then they'll only have to create a declaration of compliance. So it is fair that the author of this article describes a plethora of requirements and specifications, etc. However, a significant amount of work will have been done for any manufacturer building either a standard remote ID UAS or a broadcast remote ID. So while it's true, it's probably a little sensational, and I'm
Yeah.
delighted to work with the ASTM to make this a lot easier for manufacturers and more available and hopefully lower cost for us.
It goes on to say most of the production and design rules are effective as of September 6, 2022, but manufacturers of remote ID broadcast modules are subject to the means of compliance requirement, FAA inspection and audit procedures, and certain other regulations by April 21st, 2021. The operational requirements are effective as of September 16th, 2023. So, while I would say yes, remote ID broadcast modules can now start being built. I don't think or start being designed. I would say I don't think anybody's building them yet. But um, that doesn't really kick off today. I think that's more of just you can start possibly submitting that kind of stuff. But there's, again, with the ASTM standard, that's going to be your recipe for creating these things.
And
So
our target is the summer of this year, so June, July.
Mhm.
The objective is to have an FAA approved means of compliance, and we would. And oh, by the way, the 100 or so individuals who are on this working group are members of all of the major drone companies, as well as UTM and USS companies. So everyone that I'm aware of who's interested in building a module or a remote ID UAS is working on this standard.
Absolutely. So look forward to seeing what comes out of the ASTM working group and that standard, and getting that out to all those who are going to hopefully be helping us stay in the air and comply with these. So that'll be a good. And all the ASTM folk, thank you for all the work you're doing. We appreciate it. All right, so here's my fanboy moment for the day. We have the Ingenuity. Had a 40-second flight. The video is actually doing something, I promise.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but those propellers do something, right?
They do spin, and it goes up. And this was taken by Perseverance, watching its little brother.
Is the rotor RPM really at 2,700 RPM?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculously high.
So that's like a high performance 3D helicopter, right?
Yep.
There's a very thin atmosphere there. So
right.
Yeah. So it's got huge blades spinning ridiculously fast, and flies for about 40 seconds. I think it's scheduled for 4 more 90-second flights over its lifespan, which is not going to be very long. But you know what?
A total of 5 flights? Is that all it's planned to fly?
I think so, yeah.
Well, let's hope it's more like the rovers that were planned to be on Mars for like 90 days and were there for 10 years or something.
So, right, yeah. Let's hope it does a little better. But you know what? We flew a rotorcraft on a different planet.
Got to start somewhere.
Those rovers were powered by PowerPC processors.
Really?
Designed by IBM.
You know, my favorite.
They were.
My favorite random nerd trivia. So the flight computer that was on the Apollo spacecraft that actually landed on the moon was less powerful than the original Game Boy.
Oh yeah.
Figure that one out. Yeah. That's amazing.
Those guys are real men flying.
So I got. What's that?
I said they were real men flying those spacecraft. My word.
So this is a picture that Ingenuity took facing down of its own shadow on Mars during its inaugural flight. And really cool story that I, for some reason, didn't know in all my fanboyism here, was that there is a small piece of the right plane
fire.
right underneath the solar panel on this thing, and that's awesome. It's about the size of a postage stamp. So a little piece of history went with us, planet, and that's awesome.
And Washbucket says that the Mars helicopter is also running Linux, so open source
Oh,
software.
hey, look at
Cool.
that.
I'm a fan of that.
Yes.
I've tried Linux. I just story for another time. So I thought this was really cool. And I had no idea this was a thing, but NASA's Ingenuity drone could potentially glow during its flights on Mars.
Oh yeah, I've
And
seen videos of stuff like that.
yeah, so and this is a phenomenon with helicopters in sandy areas on Earth. So it basically says the tiny rotorcraft managed to take off for a few seconds and land without any major incident. We also learned that the Martian atmosphere could potentially create enough static to make the copter glow. The Martian atmosphere is so dusty, the spinning blades of a rotor aircraft like the Ingenuity could potentially create enough energy to visibly glow.
Well,
And
I hope they try to fly it at dusk or at night so we can see that.
oh, it'd be gorgeous. The glowing phenomenon is called the Kopp-Etchells effect and most often occurs on our planet with rotorcraft in sandy environments, like military aircraft operating in the desert. And you can see this is a Chinook that has this going. Any drone pilots out there, anybody who watches this, if you have pictures of your drone doing this, I want to see it. I'm serious. I live in Arizona. To be honest, I've only flown a handful of times at night, but never with so much dust that it creates this. But
Would it
man, I would love to
require
see
the
that.
propellers to be made out of a certain material to get the effect?
I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah.
I know the
Little
one
metallic-
on Ingenuity. I
metallic
think they're
paint,
carbon
maybe?
fibers.
Ooh, they're conductive. Little.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alex? Little metallic paint?
Well, he would just put the gem fan LED props on there and call it good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it could,
Close
yeah.
enough.
That's funny. But I would love to see this. This would be amazing. And yeah, so another nerd boy moment. And I did want to read this. This comes from Bruce Simpson. Most people know him as XJet. And he stops in here every once in a while. He posted an article. So today we flew, or not an article, but a post on Facebook. So today we flew a drone on Mars. Congratulations, NASA, and the team of thousands who achieved this wonderful result. However, what about the hobby that was the genesis of much of the innovation, technology, and experimentation that ultimately made such a craft a reality? What about all the avid RC hobbyists who, for more than a decade, have been experimenting with multi-rotors long before there was anything available off the shelf? How much of what was achieved on Mars today owes its origins to a bunch of keen amateur enthusiasts who were simply driven by a desire to have fun and create something new and different from repurposed electronics and RC model parts? What a shame that politicians and regulators don't stop for a moment and recognize what damage they're doing to our future by regulating this hobby out of existence. They're more than happy to pat themselves on the back for NASA's achievements, but without the hobby doing the groundwork, we would not be flying a copter on Mars today. We should remind everyone of the debt owed to this hobby by those who continue to push the boundaries of exploring our universe. And to me, that was a pretty inspirational post. At the same time, it really does. I think a lot of this, not only just ingenuity, but even perseverance and the RC modeling community on flying robots on Mars and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of this stuff came out of the basements of people's workshops, and so and that's why we're here, is to keep this hobby alive and do what we do. So I did want to read that. I thought it was really cool. And we do appreciate Bruce Simpson and the work he does. Next up, we have this came from the FAA safety team to my email today. Part 107 pilots. The operations over people rule is effective today. Remote pilots operating under Part 107 may fly at night over people and moving vehicles without a waiver as long as they meet requirements defined in the rule. And there's a link to the rule. Airspace authorizations are still required for night operations in controlled airspace under 400 feet. Currently, Lance only allows for approval of daytime authorizations. However, the system will be expanded to allow night authorizations by fall of 2021. In the interim, night authorizations at or below the approved altitude in the UAS facility maps will consist of 2 separate authorizations that combined allow you to fly at night. You'll need a daytime authorization and a national authorization, which extends the duration of a daytime Lance authorization to allow nighttime operations for the same date indicated on the daytime Lance authorization. It's a lot of authorization. If your operation requires you to fly above the UAS facility maps altitude, you must use Drone Zone for your authorization. So let me drop a link to this. So those who are
while you're looking for that, this is a little piece of trivia. When the rule of about flying at night was going through the process with the after the rule is out for n number of days, there's a period that you can ask for comments with the OMB. Effectively, it's the White House or the Office of Management and Budget, and create comments. The people receiving the comments are really not allowed to respond. They can just ask you questions. And so the comment I made to the group on this piece of regulation was, hey, Lance doesn't work for this authorization. So now we have, and they were like, we were not aware of that. And so it was so pretty nice that they commit today that they will have Lance to be able to create an authorization at night. So, is that correlation there? Couldn't hurt. So we'll take partial credit for that one.
Yeah, take it where we can, right? Second to this, keep in mind that hobbyists can still have been able to and continue to be able to fly at night without any of this process. If you are flying in controlled airspace, however, you do file Lance authorization.
And not over people.
Yes.
And so, the corresponding... Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to add one small thing before we move to the next one.
Yeah.
The website, the FASafety.gov, I would also encourage all you pilots to go make an account, because there's a bunch of people who do webinars or presentations all about aviation. So not just drones, but for us, most likely drones would be where you'd be looking for. And they'll talk about and go in depth of all different kinds of things. And if you also want to learn a little more about manned aviation too, there's all those resources and training on this website. So this is a very informative website where you can learn a lot more about safety. And if you make an account, they'll send you emails when there are events in your area.
Alex, could you put the URL in the chat?
Yes.
And everybody, don't just go crazy and go flying at night and flying over people now, just because the rules say you can, because the rules have a lot of gotchas in them. You have to meet a lot of requirements before you are allowed to be able to do those things. For example, I think like flying over people, if I've got this right, one of the ways to do it is if you fly something that's less than 250 grams and it has the propellers all guarded. So you can probably fly a tiny whoop over people, which is fine. But you can't fly even a Mavic Mini over people, because as soon as you put prop guards on, it's over 250 grams. Or if you want to fly something over 250 grams around or above people, then I think it has to have remote ID, and nothing has remote ID yet, so you can't do it anyway.
And the over people is also for 107 too. So
yeah,
you need
it's not
the
recreational.
107 certificate as well.
And I think it's not just 107, but it's people who have passed the renewed test from like the past couple weeks are the only people who can also.
Yeah, I did attach the final rule down below. So you want to dig into that, this came out right at the same time as Remote ID. And yeah.
And while all of this sounds painful, this is good because if you're a Part 107 pilot and you wanted to fly at night, it was previously more difficult than we've just described. So we're making this is
Progress.
while it is a little hard to fathom, it really is progress, and it is easier to fly at night with your 107.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, that's the wrong article. I'm shooting for a little redemption here. This was a new volcano video that came out, I do believe, and I think I saw Team Black Sheep post this originally a couple days ago, and this is pretty crazy.
I wish I had a park with a volcano in it near me.
Right? It's crazy.
But then I would probably melt a lot of things.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Isn't that the point?
Well, I would sacrifice for this.
Man.
I mean, oh jeez. Like if even one of those little slabs of magma, like it's over.
Doing a building dive basically down the side of a volcano.
Oof.
And
Yeah,
a
this is pretty
gap
incredible.
between two of them.
So tough recovery if you crash.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Could you imagine if it landed somewhere and crashed, but it was between lava streams and you could see it, but you couldn't get to it?
Yeah, no. It's
And you know you got a GoPro full of some awesome video feed.
So pretty impressive flying. I will drop a link to this. Really hats off to this pilot. Let's see. I think I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. So good job, guy.
Do you think there's a drone in the air around that
work
volcano at all times? Or there's like a lot of people flying around it? Because there's a lot of good videos from it.
I have. I mean, if
Could just been a
I
group of
lived there,
people.
I'd be there. Yeah, it could be.
What a
Like
great
a local
use of
group.
yeah, what a great use of drones. I mean, no one is putting themselves at risk. It's just tailor-made. So
And there's
great.
no UTM keeping them all safe.
Sick burn. All right, so I'm gonna wrap up because I don't want to take up all the time. I'm sure Alex has some fun stuff for us this evening. But I'm not gonna go through this entire article. If you've got a spare 20 minutes, I will drop this. This is actually a pretty good article on why America's infrastructure needs the drone industry. And I'm just going to call out a couple of key statements right here. Currently, 42% of all bridges are at least 50 years old, and 46,154, or 7.5% of the nation's bridges, are considered structurally deficient, meaning they are in poor condition. The nation needs a systematic program for bridge preservation that, like that embraced by many states, whereby existing deterioration is prioritized and the focus is on preventative maintenance. So it says America is now poised to spend a historic amount of money on building and reinvigorating its infrastructure and human capital. As exciting and as revolutionary as this proposal is, something we haven't seen since the New Deal, putting that kind of money into legacy procedures and workflows isn't going to get us there. To achieve the results of the New Deal, we need to use the new technology that is available to us today. With an additional emphasis on drones, Biden's proposal would no longer be geared towards just fixing and maintaining our infrastructure, but rather modernizing America, creating innovative, future-proof, technologically and environmentally sustainable jobs and infrastructure. Would be proactive rather than reactive to the infrastructure needs and updates. It would stimulate the growth of a new category of safe inspection jobs in the USA. Says drones are the only way to inspect America's infrastructure in time. And that's in time to save a lot of the deteriorating infrastructure. And that's something, honestly, that I would agree with. Side note, this picture is actually from Oregon. I've flown that bridge. Not well, but I've flown it. There's a giant chasm underneath it. But yeah, pretty cool to see that. So this is a list of, you know, it's probably not all inclusive, but primary demand areas for enterprise drones. Transportation. There are 4 million miles of roads in the United States. Number of bridges 614,387. Miles of rail 140,000 miles. 550,000 miles of telecom. That's just number of cell towers. So, you know, I'm not going to go through everything, but drones would be a perfect use. Provide a ton of jobs for a lot of people in our neck of the woods, and be able to really revolutionize the ability to inspect and maintain, you know, our infrastructure. America is a big country, and I think that a lot of things get neglected in terms of our roads and our rail and our bridges and all those things. And I don't think it's on purpose. It just is what it is. It takes time to inspect a bridge. I was watching a documentary on one of the bridge. I think it was Golden Gate Bridge, and the maintenance that they do, they start off on one side of the bridge and they work towards the other. And by the time they actually make it, you know, whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, I think it's a long period of time to just do the preventative maintenance on it. And they just have to start all over again, as opposed to, you know, being able to inspect it quickly and efficiently and be able to do maintenance on the spot, that kind of thing. It's, I mean, it's a no-brainer to be able to use something that can get up in there in small spaces, take high-res pictures, and be able to inform those who need to know what's going on. And that's just one, you know, case point. So it's a really good article. I would recommend reading it. It's long, but you know, well worth the read. So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to either Dave or Alex, whoever wants to take it from here. That's you, Alex.
I figured. Alrighty. So a couple weeks ago, we had the Mayhem team race. That ended up with Team Heart of America taking first place, Team Velocity Drone taking second place, and Team White Goat taking third. In total, there were, I believe, over 10,000 laps by all the teams combined.
So can you tell me a little bit, what is Mayhem anyway? What do you mean 10,000 laps?
Last time.
Was everybody?
So Mayhem's dawn to dusk, 12 hours of racing. It's a team race.
So the goal is to see who can get the most laps in 12 hours. Is that how it works?
Yes, most laps in 12 hours.
And what was the winner? So, the winner got how many laps?
I believe the final lap count for Team Heart of America was 1,672 laps.
Yikes!
Wow.
Team Heart of America was leading for most of the race. Then towards about 3/4 of the way through, Team Velocity Drone took the lead. However, something happened towards the end of the race, and Heart of America took back their lead. Team Velocity Drone finished up with 1,664 laps, so only about a 8-lap difference there.
Wow.
In 12 hours, an 8-lap difference?
Jeez.
Yep.
And approximately how long does it take per lap then?
It seems like the laps were averaging around 23 seconds a team, or 23 seconds around that time.
Yeah, it'd be within 8 laps, 23 seconds apiece. That's pretty close.
Yeah, I think the hot laps were around just over 19 seconds. I'm not sure. I know there was some people betting money on if pilots could do under a 19-second lap. I'm not sure if that happened, but there were some close ones to sub 19. That was the teams so for Team Heart of America, the members were Evan Heads Up FPV Turner and Paul Nurkala. We have, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but it's Christian Amari. Or Amari is his pilot handle. And then we have Timothy, pilot handle Sky, Alex Chief Campbell. I'm not sure how to pronounce this other guy's name, but it's Mondo is his handle. Knick-Knack is the next guy's handle, and then Shames for Sean Ames. That was Team Heart of America.
Nice.
So 2 DRL pilots and several other top pilots. Then another thing to talk about for racing in general is some people don't know how the timing works. So with timing in FPV racing,
By some people, do you mean Dave?
Yeah, yes, but they still think that we use transponders for. However, this is not true. We just use our video signals. Since we're all on 25 milliwatts output power, their timing system checks the RSSI of the video, and whenever that peaks, it counts that as your lap.
Okay, so the drone is broadcasting a video signal at a constant strength, basically, as it's flying around the track. And when it gets close to the start-finish line, the device can see that the signal strength is increasing, and all of a sudden it'll start decreasing, and it'll say, ha, when it got to that peak, you passed the start-finish line, I'm going to count your lap.
Yes, and then on top of that, there's a threshold that it has to hit as well. So even if it does peak somewhere else, on it, say you fly by it on another section of the track,
sure,
and it peaks there,
it's
has a threshold where it has to peak.
Ones?
Yes, it has to peak above a certain amount, and then it will count that. And the timing system, I know, will go at least 3 decimal places. So
okay, pretty accurate, or pretty.
Yep, and races will be as close as less than 100th of a second. That happened this weekend.
Wow,
and
I'm
sure they have to design the tracks with this in mind, so that they try to keep.
I was going to ask
some of the parts of the track from coming too close to the start finish, just to make sure the timing is more reliable.
Yes, however, there are also some ways where you can help prevent that by putting RF shielding, so like some copper tape around the side of the timer that's facing where the track is.
Gotcha.
Or angling the timer so it's pointing outside of the field where it's just hitting the start gate. Or you could even put it under the ground a little bit,
so it can
it's
only
just
see like
looking straight up.
Interesting. Very cool.
So that's a little bit how the timing works. It goes, then hooks up to the computer, and usually use a software called LiveTime, and you can do a lot of design in there, and you can even live stream races through that system as well.
Cool.
So I know a lot of like goggle modules and stuff also have a lap timer feature on them. Is that a good way that you recommend to practice if you're doing practice runs?
I believe that only is on the TBS one.
Is it only on TBS? I thought it was on
I think
some others,
so.
Maybe I'm wrong. I know my TBS, my TBS has it. So
yeah, the Fusion. I'm pretty sure that's the only one that has it. However, I'm not sure how many people actually use that. I know a lot of people will use the Emergent RC Lap RF puck, or I think people also used to use the TBS lap timer. There's a smaller one that they had, but I think people stopped using that just because it wasn't kept up with. And then some people will use the Delta 5 race timer, which is an open source timer. So that one can track up to 4 or 8 pilot. Well, actually, they can track however you set it to, just how many nodes you're willing to build and pay for.
Very cool.
But at races, the most common timer that you'll see for timing everything is the Immersion RC Lap RF8 way. That is very well designed and very common at races. One that you used to see was the TBS Event Tracker, but they stopped making that one. And then the other second most common one you'll see that races will be using is the Delta 5.
Very cool. Anything else for us, sir?
Not that I could think of. And next week I'll save next week, or not next week, but next town hall for going over the parts that were used at Champs by the top pilots.
Nice.
When's your next race?
May 2nd.
Ooh, coming up. You ready?
Are your drones
quads
ready?
are working.
Your quads are working. Well, that's a good
The
start.
racing quads are working. my primary racing quads are working. My backups, not so much.
Well, you need to get busy on that, sir.
I survived this last weekend.
Okay. Well, tell me that.
I only had to use one drone.
Well, tell me.
Wow, you weren't going hard enough.
Done. Right.
Yeah, hey, I did better than I thought I would. I was keeping up with the faster pilots.
That's awesome.
Good for you.
All right, Dave. What do you got? Anything to wrap us up with?
Just we are with the ASTM work. We're working on a little bit of a snag. It has to do with vertical accuracy of GPS, and this is a good example of the ASTM digging in and finding smart people all over the industry, the GPS industry, radio frequency, aviation industry, manned aviation, to help out and to figure out an issue. And this is in an effort to get that FAA approved means of compliance done for remote ID. So that's one of the things we're working on, and a couple of wrapping up some DAC write-ups and presentations in preparation for the June 23 Drone Advisory Committee. So
very good. All right. Well, with that, everybody's been really quiet today.
Anybody else have any questions that we can help out with? I take it that means nobody has any questions.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening. Hopefully some of this stuff was a little informative, and we will see you 2 weeks from now. And let's see. I just got to check. Will we have results from? Oh, yep. We'll have results from Alex's race. So hopefully he doesn't bomb out. He can give us all the deets on that. So best of luck to you, Alex, and hopefully you do great. And with that note, I will let all of you go and enjoy your week and have a lot of fun flying. It's great weather out there. So